Welcome to the June 13th, 2024 meeting of the Town of Concord Historical Commission. We are conducting this meeting online in accordance with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Executive Order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. The public may access this call through both telephone and video conferencing. Members of the public will have an opportunity to ask questions and provide public comment and discussions following any petitioner's presentation and questions from the commission. To do so, please raise your hand in the participant function of the Zoom meeting platform. I will call now on each commissioner for comments on an application and then open the meeting for public comment. Once there are no more public comments, I will ask for a motion from the commission to continue to approve with conditions the said application. Now, this time I'd like to ask for a roll call from the commission members to make sure we have a quorum. Nancy?
Nancy Nelson, present.
Nancy Priscilla Lee, present.
Michael Capizzi, present.
Melissa, you're muted, but we know
got you.
your lips.
I am present. I am sorry. The dog was barking.
Okay. And Beth is
Do I count?
Yes, yes.
Okay, I'm here.
yeah, okay. So we have a quorum. So the meeting is officially called to order. We have a couple of things on the agenda that we need to work through tonight. The first one, the section 106 review, the 54 Wallen Street, the Congregational Church, the cell tower. So I briefly looked through the paperwork on this, and we're awaiting some more paperwork from the applicant. So Ian, on this one here, he's gonna provide more information to us.
That's right. I had requested information about a month ago, cut sheets or photographs to give you all a sense of, what the changes would be. Since it does seem as if there might be, it looks as though they're going to be replacing the glazing on the tower, and it also seems as if there are units that are attached to the outside of the tower, but I may not be reading the drawings correctly. It seems as if those on the inside are dotted, but we would need clarification really from them. So he said that he wasn't able to provide the additional information for this meeting, and he wasn't able to attend this meeting, but he could at next month. I also let them know that he'll have to come before the HDC.
Nancy.
I did see on one of the drawings that they were replacing windows with fiberglass windows. So that's more than just replacing glazing.
Right, and I think a lot of that, my initial looking at these drawings is that these cylinders or whatever they are going to be behind those windows.
Yeah, that's my assumption. Yeah,
right.
Further down on the tower, it seemed as if there were also units.
It seemed discreet, but it'll be good to see more information. I think that's right.
Also, though, isn't this a replacement tower? There used to be a cell tower in the Trinitarian Church, I believe.
Yes, Elizabeth Hughes, town planner, said that yes, there are existing cell tower units within the spire, the church.
So there are existing tower, there are existing whatever satellite, but in there now.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So, excuse me.
Well, I also noticed that they're calling for a new control room inside the basement of the church as well.
Yeah, 10 by 16 room.
But
Hi, sorry I'm late.
Welcome.
Hi, everybody.
So I have a question though. What we're talking about is the effect that this has on historic properties, right? That's what this 106 review on our part is.
Right.
I don't see, it's a replacement of an existing facility within the steeple.
Yeah.
I don't understand why we would have an objection.
We have to see if it's different.
Well, what do you mean different? Is it affecting the historic area around?
Maybe, we don't know.
Right, we
Right.
need someone to
Lauren?
present to us.
Lauren?
Well, I think with section 106, it's a little different than what the HDC would review. Where the HDC is really looking at architectural character and materials and following their guidelines. For section 106, it's a simple question about, does this have an adverse effect, no adverse effect, or no effect? That's really, you have sort of three choices. And in order for something to have an adverse effect, it really has to affect the integrity of the historic property. And that could include the church itself or anything that is visible, that can see the church, right? So any historic properties in a visual range could be part of that evaluation. But I don't know that this would meet that threshold.
Well, the only thing I was thinking of is I was drawn to the basement where they're gonna be putting the new computer room in, the new air conditioning room to power the new tower, to see if they're gonna change that, the integrity of the basement of the church. That's the only thing I was concerned about. So,
Let's say you're muted.
I'm sorry, as far as I've understood, we don't necessarily have authority for the interior of the building. Again, that's an HDC issue, not ours.
No, HDC is exterior.
Well, so you know, I
We're
don't know.
broad. We're
I-
broad.
it's just kind of like what we looked at the Wright Tavern, in the basement kind of thing.
But he's coming next meeting, right?
Yeah, yeah.
By the way, the letter was dated May 30th, and they're looking for comments within 30 days. So it seemed to me, although I don't know the process from the planning department, do we need to respond and explain that because they're providing more documentation or correspondence, that the 30 days should be extended to 60 thereof?
I've already asked the question, right, to see how long, what the deadline is for us, because as you said, it's typically 30 days. And he
Right.
said in this case, because they aren't able to attend this meeting, that they would extend it so that they could present the project and then we could get back to them,
Oh,
or
okay.
the commission could get back to them, as soon as possible after the meeting.
So it would probably be in our best interest to just wait till next month to
Yeah.
tackle and ask them more direct questions.
I'd like to suggest, Anne, if you are talking to that representative before next meeting, just that we'd want to know specifically how many windows are going to be replaced and how the exterior, what the effect is going to be on the exterior, what additions are going to be made. Although, as everybody's pointed out, that is really
That's more the
issues to be
historic
for
district.
the historic,
HDC,
yes, the
right,
HDC.
not so much us.
But we're going to hear it, so excuse me, but we'd still, I mean, if he's coming, if that person's coming, I'd still just be interested in knowing that information.
Nancy?
I think that's not quite correct, that we don't have the ability to comment on what's on the exterior or the interior. We have the responsibility to protect historic resources, and if something is gonna be replaced with fiberglass instead of what the original windows are, for instance, we can comment on that. We don't have any regulatory authority over that.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. That's why made that point. Because we would like to know that information so that we can weigh in with our opinions.
Okay. We'll put the questions together for our meeting for next month.
Lauren had her hand up first.
Oh, I think that I just was gonna add my 2 cents in. I think that's a good strategy because you might say, wow, this, project doesn't, meet the threshold for an adverse effect. We are concerned about the replacement of, so you might handle it in that way.
Okay.
I had the same question about the fiberglass windows.
Okay,
Okay.
manana.
So we will deal with this on the next meeting. And we can move on to number 2, 69 Middle Road, the Brooks Inn. Is it Luis?
Yep, that's me.
Okay,
Do you want me to say anything about it? I think you have all the documentation, but I'm happy to talk for a bit. if you'd
Sure.
like.
sure.
So, so the house, can I share my screen too? I wonder, am I allowed?
Mhm.
Okay, let me open up some things and show you the house. So the house was built in about circa 1865. And here's what it looked like originally. Well, I'm not sure I can share it. Let's see. Desktop one. No,
I need to make him a co-host, Alan,
yeah, I don't think I'm allowed to share yet.
or Ann.
Okay, let's see. How do we do this?
Ann,
Shares.
can you give him permission?
Is
Sure,
it-
let me try to do that, sorry.
Okay, see if you can.
Do that. Nope.
Try it again.
Sorry, wrong person. 1 second.
If I hit the share screen, will it work or?
You need
No,
to give.
it'll share your screen.
Should have it now. Does that work for you, Louis?
Let me check. Share screen. One participant can share it at a time. Maybe I could say multiple participants can share. No, it's not doing it. Advanced files. No, it's not that important. I just wanted to show you a picture of the house, which would be
Okay.
nice. But if you cannot, nope, I don't think you can let me share unless you want to keep trying that. But otherwise, I can talk about it. So the house was built circa 1865. It was built for Isaiah Brooks, who lived there. He was the second longest engineer on the Concord Fitchburg line. And he lived right across the street. So it's right behind, it's the first house on Middle Street, right behind a row of horrible buildings that should never have been there. And sadly, I found a photograph of the stables, the livery that was there, that Mrs. Brooks, who lived in the house had built for her son so that he could take people on tours. But you all have the documentation, right?
Mhm.
I want to make sure. So he lived there. He died in 1899, but before that, in 1890, no, he died
Are
in
you sure did he die in 1891? That was what your
1891. Yeah, I'm sorry, but
okay.
she had held suffrage meetings there. She was kind of this great Concord woman. She went down to Washington, D.C. She's mentioned in the Elizabeth Cady Stanton book as like a vice president of the women's suffrage movement. So when he died, so she did that when he was still alive. He died in, is it 1891? I mean, I can look at that too. I should have it in front of me, but I don't. But what she did was she started taking in boarders and doing serving lunch and having wheelmen come, the bicyclers who would come. So she would serve them lunch. She would give them boarding. She had her own tourist guide, Louise E. Brooks Tourist Guide, which she would connect them with people who could drive them around town. She had the train schedule on the back of her card. It was kind of amazing. But when he died, she probably needed money, so she probably turned it into it was first Louise E. Brooks's, Mrs. L. E. Brooks's, but then it later on became, and it's listed in the Boston Directory for at least 9 years as the Brooks's Inn, BROOKS apostrophe INN. So I think that's what my application would be for it. I think Anne has it, but I think I submitted it. I resubmitted it. The first time I submitted it was for the Brooks Inn, which is what people called it, but because people didn't think that the apostrophe after the S was Brooks's Inn. But I think because it's in it's in the business directory as Brooks's Inn, I think that would probably be the most historically accurate name for it, but I'm open to suggestions. And I was thinking, in terms of the date, because we looked at maps, Anne looked at maps, and she saw that it was, it was pre-1867. And so we thought, and Middle Street just started getting built, I think, after 1850 or something. So she thought 1865 was an appropriate date for a circa 1865. So I was thinking Brooks is in exactly the way it is in that documentation, circa 1865. But I'm not wed to it. I wondered if I should name it the Isaiah Brooks house, because he had been there for 45 years. But I think Mrs. Brooks's story is so compelling. And the fact that she was not only a suffragette, but she had her own business. She created a business for her son by building the stable next door. She had her own tourist's guide. It's sort of, I think that's where the story's at, and I think the way people remember it in the Macris report, it said the common name is Brooks's Inn. So I think people were calling it that for a long time. So that's my idea. But, how do you all feel?
Nancy?
I was really interested in the history of your house. I found it fascinating. I was looking at the documents that you submitted. And I couldn't tell from the documents you submitted how long it was Brooks's Inn. Her husband died in 1891. And she was listed as a dressmaker, I think, in
Yes.
1892. And the ad that we have is from the directory from 1899. So I think that was my one interest. And I love on that too. I just wanted to note that her telephone number was 23-3.
Yeah, I saw that. Isn't that great?
Yeah.
So I think we know in 1892, in the earlier one, it was listed as Mrs. L.E. Brooks's. Share it if I could. It's great, but it's in the documentation as well. So I don't know exactly how long. I don't know whether she at one point early on, she started it as Mrs. L.E. Brooks's. And by the time 1899 came, it was Brooks's Inn. So
on the other things, that documents you submitted, she was given money back from town funds for her board, and it seemed like that for the children of her, if C.E. Brooks was her son, because I know she had one son.
Had one son named Charles who had some issues, which I think were alcohol, but I'm not sure, because it also said he was overtaken. She was also the head of the women's
Temperance Union.
Temperance Union, yeah. So I don't know how the town was giving her money to board her own son. There was another person also in that documentation who she was boarding. His name was, I forget. He lived there, but I don't know. The answer is I don't. I know
I think my only concern with having it called Brooks's Inn is if it was, I would like to know that it was a Brooks's Inn for more than just 1 or 2 years. I would like confirmation of that. I feel more comfortable. I think it's really interesting that she was a tourist guide. And I think that is worth doing a little bit more research to see, if she must have been one of our earliest guides for the town. And that would be really noteworthy too. I don't know how on other signs of our house signs, if it says, if there's room to put, that the house belonged to both of them, the Isaac Brooks house. And then I just don't know. I'd have to look at that.
House has a lot of stories.
In
It
the past, well, I was just
does
gonna say,
say in the Concord Enterprise in December 28th, 1888, that the Women's Suffrage League were meeting in the home.
yeah.
Well, they've written Anna Dawes' book in that house. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know if we're going to be able to find out if the earlier directories. I haven't found any other listings, so I'm not sure it's doable, but.
Well, I just, given the fact that both of them were important citizens of Concord,
Oh.
we know typically we just give it, it's the name, it's the Mr. and Mrs. or, there's no room for text other than the house, circa, whatever. I would propose the Isaiah and Louise Brooks house, house, I think we say,
Oh,
circa
yeah.
1865. Because as you point out, he was a just very important member of the railroad, 45 years, long time. And she's a hot ticket.
Yeah, exactly. I know. It's just a little bit of a shame to cut him out of the history, but she is the more interesting.
Well, yes,
yeah.
and I don't know, for 45 years he serviced people, and what she said, she provided her advertisement was for a lot of time for railroad people coming off the train. So she, you could imply that I don't know whether she started it while he was still alive. That's not clear, right? As Nancy points out.
Nancy? Nelson? You're mute. Mute?
I think she started it after he had died, though. I'm not 100% sure, but
It would make sense because she was trying to make a living for herself and her son.
probably, yeah. But there's no, it's not 100% documentable.
I don't know. We've been doing these things a long time. There's no right and wrong.
Mm.
Yeah. Nancy, did you have something? Nelson?
I was just gonna say that both of them were significant, so I'm thinking that that's a good idea, maybe. To have both.
I think it's a good compromise.
Yeah. And
So-
any more discussions or? Lauren?
My only thought is, and I don't have the background on how you've handled this in the past, so I apologize for that, is I think sometimes it doesn't matter so much the length of time. It's more about what's the most significant aspect, right? So if the in phase, if you will, of the house is really an important event in and of itself, then that would kind of justify the naming, even if it was for a shorter period than perhaps Isaiah Brooks lived in the house. But I think there's sort of no right answer, and there are a couple of options, both of which would be fine with me.
I mean, my feeling about it, I totally agree. I was like, I kind of want to honor both of them, but once it's called Brooks's Inn, which was a historic name, was a name at the time, it kind of begs for a whole story, which you want to talk about, where you see a house name and it just has someone's name on it. You're kind of like, whoever, no one really, you know what I mean? I know it's important, but like, it doesn't beg the story in the same way that Brooks's Inn does. It's like people, and we have so many names of houses and towns. And Brooks, they're both of their last names, so it kind of does honor both of them.
Mhm.
So
But
we-
it begs the story of their lives.
Are we looking for a teaser? Lewis, are we looking for a teaser?
A little bit, yeah. Especially because I kind of want to make it into an inn one day, maybe. So it makes it even more interesting. So like I have a dream of doing a little, bed and breakfast someday. And I have old historic pictures of the house, and I have his I have stuff about him, about her, and it would be kind of nice to talk about them both if it were an inn. You know what I mean?
Nancy?
Would you say both, the Brooks residence and inn?
I
Or
think
something
it's
like
too
that?
wordy though, do you think?
I'm sorry?
You think it would be too wordy?
That's not very much, that's not wordy.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I'm a little bit, I see everyone's point, and I'm a little bit uncomfortable, but I am a little bit uncomfortable with calling it the Brooks Inn, since that wasn't why it was, I understand Lauren's point too, that maybe if that was one of the more interesting or significant period of that, that the house served, but I think it wasn't an the Brooks Inn for a long time, and we don't know much about it. We don't know how successful she was, how many people stayed there. It seems like it was first, she tried to make it a boarding house. And then she boarded, children. So she was looking for angles, and maybe she made it, and that is fascinating in and of itself, that she called it the Brooks Inn and advertised that to try to earn an income for herself. So, but to just simply call it the Brooks Inn, I think, doesn't do justice to the life of the house.
That's why I honor both.
That's why, yeah, I suggest that
I
Isaiah.
like, yeah, I like the both of their names, or this idea, the residence and an inn, maybe.
Also, I mean, I take a little umbrage, there are houses around that area where you live named after typically just the man, like Barzillai Frost. And I'm pretty sure there was a Mrs. Frost who might well have had a substantial contribution to their life together. I think increasingly, at least since I've been on the commission, we've encouraged both names when it was a couple's home. So,
And in this case, both of them were prominent independently, right?
Mhm.
So put both and say residence and inn. I don't know.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
what would so you'd propose,
Isaiah and Louise Brooks
Brooks
house.
house,
And then
and then
just-
underneath that Brooks is in. Or the Brooks Inn, yeah,
And in, or something like that.
and Brooks.
Well, home and inn. Because at that point, residence is going to take a lot of space if you did.
Maybe just
Isaiah.
in quotes, Brooks is
Is
in.
it that constrained? Is it that constrained?
Well, they're not very big.
No, I know.
I like the purity of Isaiah or Louisa and Isaiah Brooks's, Louisa and Isaiah Brooks house, or Louisa and Isaiah Brooks is in circa 1865 might be the most kind of, yeah, I wouldn't want it to look visually cluttered, you know what I mean? But
Mhm.
I like the idea of honoring both of them and the venture. You know,
Can you get to the inn story from the plaque?
I think if it says Brooks is in it, that's going to beg the story, and it says their name, and then that kind of does both. Yeah, I mean, I like that. I like. Do we put her name first or his name first?
That's
That's,
to you.
that's,
Yeah.
Oh, it's your choice.
depends who you talk to.
Yeah. For the women, yes.
Yeah. Or do we go alphabetically? I don't know. I mean,
Oh,
he was
well.
very important. He was very important to the railroad.
I'm having trouble. I'm doing a survey of all the monuments and markers, and I've looked at in the town, and I've looked at a lot of these, well, many of these house signs, and there are sometimes an indication is not only a name. I'm thinking Thomas Dane Carpenter is on one of them. I don't remember. I just can't think of another example off the top of my head. So there is sometimes, a few other words. I'm thinking Isaiah and Louisa Brooks house, comma, and the Brooks Inn, but that is a lot of words. So I don't
Well,
know.
does it,
But,
honestly, does it not fit? Who knows here whether or not it would fit?
Yeah, I don't know.
It just means the font's a little smaller. Or Anne might know.
Maybe Anne knows.
Bill Crosby said he can work with
Yeah.
people and make it fit,
Can we
either
get a
adjust the
little-
size or adjust the font. So
Could
Yeah.
you get a little
that shouldn't
mock-up?
be a problem.
Well, Bill would work out that with,
Yeah, you could put it on there.
Right.
It's not a paragraph.
so, would you like a motion? And then we could talk about this a long time.
So we probably should put a motion on the table to approve the placard or the marker.
Did you finalize the text?
Well,
want-
so.
You want a
Louise-
motion? I'll make a motion.
we need to look at it first to see how it looks.
Well, yeah, I'm right, yeah.
But I think we could finalize that it's their names and Brooks is in and the date. And then, then you could wait to approve it till you see if we like the way it looks.
Right.
Yeah, if you don't mind just doing a little bit of experimenting and coming back to us, I
Yeah,
think that
I like,
would be
I
a
like
good
talking
solution.
about, fine, yeah. If you don't mind doing the mock-ups, I'm fine with it.
Crosby's can do the mock.
Well,
Bill can do that.
so well, but wait, before we say he can do that, what are we asking him to do? We're asking him Louise and Isaiah Brooks' home and Brooks Inn circa 1865.
Or comma, Brooks Inn.
Or what about,
Or
just
on-
two
can you do
lines?
them on 2 lines?
What
You
about
can
the first line says Isaiah and Louise Brooks, the first line. The second line says Brooks is in, just the way it is in the
Yes.
titles. And then comma, circa 1865. So it's only 2 lines, maybe.
Well, you
Yes.
can fit 3, actually. You can fit 3, so
You could do 3, and on the bottom, you could do circa 1865.
that's fine.
Put something together that looks good.
Yeah, if it looks good, I'd go for it. You know what I mean? But
Mhm.
that's the concept, yeah.
I'm sure it'll work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you need a vote?
We probably should, yeah, have a motion that we take a look at that and approve it based on what we see at the next meeting, or does that make sense?
Or just have him come back.
So sorry to continue the discussion. I'm just wondering, because I had a thought, if you said the Isaiah and Louisa Brooks house circa 1865, because that pins the date, the building
Oh.
date. And then the next line, the Brooks Inn, if you could go and look at directories and try to find out, because you only submitted that one directory from 1899, if you can go and find out if it's possible, how long it was the Brooks Inn, because then you could say the Brooks Inn 1899 to 1901 or whatever it is.
Although it does add a lot more.
It adds a lot more.
Well, I know, but
But
then giving real then, it's more accurate.
maybe it's not known.
Maybe it's not known.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it could be the Brooks Inn, 1899, circa
But
1899.
here's my big question for you too. Should it say the Brooks Inn is what people called it, or should it say Brooks is in exactly as written?
Yeah,
on-
that would be good. Then you're eliminating a word. Brooks is in.
And it seems like you want to be as historically accurate to that advertisement as possible.
I like that. Brooks is in from 1899 or 1899. I think if you do a little bit more research, it will guide you on the wording.
Right. Well, we know it's in the 1890s, but I don't know, the 2 dates, don't you think that kind of is going to confuse people a bit, or?
I do.
I think it gets a little too busy,
Mm.
personally.
Too much.
I think you want it to be clean and simple, and maybe you don't give all the information because that then, leads one to ask the question.
Which is what you want.
I like that.
Right.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah.
Lauren, what would you say?
I think I would do what was her name again?
Louisa.
Louisa. I do, well, whoever you want first, Louisa and Isaac Brooks'
Yeah.
house.
Brooks
And
is,
then underneath that, I do maybe in quotes, or Brooks is in,
Mhm.
and then circa 1865 on the 3rd line.
Yeah,
That's exactly what I'm thinking.
I like that too.
I like that
do-
very
do as well.
much.
is that a motion?
Let's have a motion.
I move what Lauren said.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor, Nancy?
I,
Aye.
Michael?
which, 2 of
We got
us.
it. We
Aye.
got it. Michael?
Aye.
Melissa?
I,
Lauren? Doug?
I,
And I. Okay.
Ta-da.
Louis, let's work on that and we'll see you
Yeah,
next month.
thanks for talking about it. It really helps to kind of like talk
Yeah.
about it
Yeah.
too, I think. And
Good
And
luck
progress.
with the restoration of the inn.
in the end, yeah, it's getting there. You should see it. A lot of William Morris wallpaper that was done in 1860.
beautiful.
Oh, really?
Oh, lovely.
Right
Oh.
now, it's still
Yeah,
there?
it's looking great now. You should see it.
Oh.
Not original wallpaper. You're saying you're putting in.
So if you saw the original house, unfortunately, they put this horrible, ugly garage against it, which honestly, if I had my way, I'd be ripping down the garage and ripping out the buildings next to it and putting back.
Yeah,
Right,
hold
I
your
am-
hammer.
Look into, but but you know, I'm making it much more, you know, 19th century, and it has some great original windows.
Did
Have
you
fun.
find Robert Morris wallpaper?
William
Anywhere?
Morris. Yeah, William Morris, you can get any, it's you got it in
Oh,
England.
but did you find it behind radiators, for
Oh,
instance?
they ripped down
Oh.
everything. So I'm putting up crown moldings. I'm getting rid of lights that were in the ceiling and putting back 19th century
Oh.
sconces.
Oh,
Yeah,
Wow, well,
I
thank
even
you.
might replace 2 of the new replacement windows with 19th century windows.
have fun.
We need more of you.
Yeah.
I want to thank you for introducing us to Louisa Brooks. I guess maybe some others knew
know.
who she was, but what a wonderful
A lot
character.
Yeah.
of stuff.
It's a great story.
Thank you, Louis.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'll
Okay.
sign off. Thank you very much. Yep.
Thank you.
You.
Moving on to number 3, historic preservation plan. Hello, Elizabeth. How are you? I think you're on mute.
On mute.
Oh, there she is.
There you are.
Oh, man.
But she's muted. You're muted.
Yeah, you're muted. There you go. The scheduling, the messaging, how are things going?
Good. We've spent maybe more time than I would have liked on this beautiful product that you have in front of you, I trust. And I have spoken today about it, but we got through it yesterday, and we wanted to check in with you guys about the progress on the plan and where we see us going and concluding the plan completely by January 31st. But you'll actually see a plan according to this schedule. You'll see a pretty good plan by November 1st. So we had to work through how we wanted to configure the rest of the project in view of the delays that, you know, we've had and I've had in getting everything to this point. And we successfully persuaded the Massachusetts Historical Commission to give us an extension. The extension is you know, it's fine just as it is. It's actually more than we've asked for, but Ann and I have concluded with Peter, you know, how we want to run the project from the rest of the time. We wanted to go over that with you today. Ann, how would you propose we proceed?
Sorry, would you like me to share the screen, or do you?
Yes, I would think,
Okay.
yeah.
Just 1 second.
Yeah.
Are you able to see this? Okay.
Yep.
All right, are you going to walk this through, Elizabeth?
Sure. So the colors indicate phases. You'll see that there's been some braiding of the phases. We are starting with where we are now, which is that today I wanted to send the list of preservation partners and stakeholders that Melissa got us started on quite a while ago. We have an outline, and I expect to bring that forward along with the next product, which is more important in my view. Both are important. The partners and stakeholders more for familiarizing heritage strategies. Municipal bylaws, regulations, and management will be a rich source of recommendations, which, as you'll see, is a big next step. So moving further down, you're at, we want to create goals and vision for you guys to talk about all of these things on the CHC staff. And we're not going to be able to do we're not going to be able to pull up the agendas for each of these meetings, but we've already created agendas for each of the meetings that we're showing for you guys. So for you guys we would be meeting next week, next Thursday. Right? Or next Friday. I'm sorry, what day is it? Today is Thursday. So yes, it would be
Friday.
next Friday.
Friday.
Yeah. Set you guys for Fridays. The dates that what you see across the whole way across is the number of weeks is the first number. The date is the Monday of the week that we're looking at right above there, right below June, July, August, etc. And the dash lines indicate where the month ends, but as you know, the dates sort of flow around. So we put the date beside it. You see 6/21, but it's actually the star shows you where in the month it is actually. But it's just easier to read across when we add a few dates here. The orange is the work that Heritage Strategies is doing. The light orange is indicating where public involvement is happening. And so we've got sort of, I just want to walk you through this whole thing. At the very end, we added your regular meetings so that, and not today, but your regular meetings henceforth. There are some opportunities perhaps to combine, and we can talk about that as we get to each of them. So we've told MHC that we will close phase 1 on the 30th of June. We are already working in phase 2, but we, you know, we've done a lot of interviews and public engagement that we've documented for that. So phase 2 is really the public outreach that we've been talking about for quite a while. Supporting this is going to be a revised work plan for public outreach, which, you know, depending on how the town feels about it and you guys feel about it, how you want to do this, we can put that public outreach plan up. It's now possible to share it because it's pretty much locked in. What we want to do is document it in this time frame, this Gantt chart. And then we'll get it into a written document that explains how we're proceeding with public outreach. A big product right there that's not on here is lots more interviews with stakeholders, town staff, folks like that. And that's been part of the work on the preservation partners and stakeholders as well. So we start in, and we do have to look at all town-owned resources. I don't quite know why MHC didn't ask for this to be done in phase 1, which is where we get background. But, you know, we just have to characterize the properties that you all own and their status. And much of the properties that you own is actually open space. And, you know, we'll do something that basically describes that. Everything that we produce in all these different products will advance us into having language for the plan. MHC's vision for this is actually to, I think they imagined that we would just simply package all of the different products that they've described, but it would be massive. I mean, if you go and look at Sudbury's plan is 320 pages. And what Peter did, he was the lead planner on that one. He wrote every single product that you see described here, and they are tacked on at the back of the plan. So the plan itself is much shorter. It's less than 100 pages. And that's what we're aiming for. So everything that we're writing right now will lead us to text that we will have in the fall. So, you know, by the 30th, we'll have looked at the town-owned historic resources. And then the community survey is a time now to close on the 15th of July. The introduction that you see, if you've been on there and done it, will be, there'll be an addition in there that tells people that we're closing on July 15th. Right now, you see that we're working a little further down, public completion date. We do a written report. Later on, I'll tell you a little bit more about that. We also need to get a draft table of contents, and the big one, the big piece is overview of historic preservation issues and challenges. That's line 16 there, 2.6, due to you a month from now. And that's really the guts of our thinking about what you all need. And from there, we derive in the 4 pink lines you see just below there, just skipping down. You have a meeting again in July. You will have those products before your meeting. That's part of the deal, is that we need to get things to you at least 4 days ahead of your meeting, preferably sooner in some cases. and everything that we send you will be as formatted as we can possibly make it, so it's easy to scan. So you have issues and challenges in the table of contents to discuss on the 26th. And then following that will be another big step is preliminary draft recommendations. The MHC, Massachusetts Historical Commission, breaks it into 4 different topics. And it's a pretty good breakdown. I think we'll write it that way, but it'll be a single document. It looks like you're going to get 4 products, but you're going to get 1. And it'll come to you by the 5th of August. And your regular meeting comes soon after that, but we are planning on a meeting with the CHC and HDC down there on line 25 on the 22nd is when you would look at that. And we'll also be producing at the same time, just a little staggered off, that on the 16th of August, the public engagement and analysis report. They want a big record of what we've done, and we'll do the first version of that all the way up until, who we've interviewed, what focus groups we've had, meetings with you guys. All of that stuff has to be documented for MHC. And that will be updated by the end and appended to the plan as, one of the appendixes that they need. So it's the other product will be, we'll develop the PowerPoint. This is quite early in the process, but the PowerPoint will be useful for you guys. When we present to you on the 22nd of August, we want a PowerPoint to walk you through the recommendations and sort of touch back on the issues and challenges that we will talk about a month before that, and sort of help you sort of see the whole thing whole through a PowerPoint presentation. That PowerPoint presentation, based on your comments, will be adapted and used. It's not even written in here, but it will be used for the big meeting, which is a public meeting on the triangle there, where you see the triangle on line 30. So we will have that public meeting on the 12th of September. We are proposing that we have virtual meetings with the 4 focus groups that we met with back in April and May, you guys included. We may not need to do historic preservation programs because you all will be working with us all along, but we'll have the Economic Vitality and Tourism group, the Education group, and the Open Space and Natural Resources group. They were all great meetings, and we just want to continue their support and get their ideas in further. So they'll be seeing the recommendations a week ahead of the public meeting. If they choose to, they can come to the public meeting and support us. And so then we will post the recommendations. We see meeting with you guys on the 19th. You see that just below the 12th. You see the next star. We would meet with you guys about a week after, expected right now. It's scheduled as 7 days after the meeting on the 12th with the public, is we would meet with you again and make sure everything's great. And then we will post it online. We will post the recommendations. That'll be the first thing that the public sees. I don't know whether we'll also include a review of historic preservation issues and challenges. We may add a little bit of justification out of that product into the recommendations that people will be seeing in writing. So that's really the framework for the plan when we get done. I mean, the main thing is to get people to actions. What do you want to do? Strategies and actions. So we're going to have strategies for the 4 topics and anything else that we're thinking about. So that's a big one, and we will continue working on all that. The line 33, the public awareness and engagement on the 22nd of October, that was done before. Sorry, Anna, I didn't correct that edit. The town will simply ask people to email comments back, and we'll compile those emails. And then we'll do a little analysis on top of it to comment ourselves on what we're seeing, so that there's a summary of what we see from the public comment. Again, that's one of the things that will be compiled yet again toward the end, because we're proposing a second public meeting with the full plan in hand. Looking at that, then we will have the public forum comment summary report. And the MHC requires that you do 1 public forum. And it specifically says to present the recommendations. And we have chosen to call that the fulfillment of the MHC scope. They don't require that you do 2, but we think you should do 2. And so we're proposing a second one that would come down in the Christmas. There'd be a public meeting in the week right after Thanksgiving, and you'd have the plan on the 1st of November and all of that. So if you go, I mean, I'm sort of there. The work product is executive summary. This is 38, 39, 40. Executive summary, complete draft plan, and a 5-year preservation action plan, which is really a table where we take the same recommendations and we spell out in that table who's responsible and the level of priority of the timing, anything that we can sort of help in a very simplified way visualize where all the actions. Those will be keyed back to the text that discusses the actions in more detail. Maybe not a whole lot of detail in all cases, but definitely we see describing the issue that we're trying to solve with the actions, and grouping them as strategies. You know, we're going to deal with historic districts in the following 6 actions, you know, that kind of thing. So we'll put all that together in the final plan. But we then want to go back and give people sort of an at a glance. And what our clients tell us is that this table, which is pretty standard for all plans, is really what people tend to use. They use that as their, you know, they check it to make sure they're making their progress, and they use it for their reports and that kind of thing. But it'll be tied back, it'll be indexed to the final pages in the plan. So you can always go back and forth from your action plan to the text itself. And I don't know why we've got 2, I've got to take it out. We've got 2 executive summaries in here, and that one can come out. Anything to shorten this. Yeah. So the PowerPoint presentation that you'll see in September will be revised, and we'll be sharing it with you guys, and that'll be what we show to the public a couple of weeks later. Thanksgiving in there. And so then we're planning to post the plan. You guys will okay the plan on the 15th, we hope, and then we'll have 7 days to get it ready to put it out for public comment. And so that's what those little computers are, is to show you that those are, you know, digital posting of this. And so the triangle comes a little bit, I mean, there's always sort of a debate. When do you do the public meeting? You know, when you have a public comment period, do you do it before first? Do you do it in the middle? You do it at the end? In this case, the schedule pretty much dictates that we go ahead and get it out because of the holidays. The schedule dictates that we get it out before Thanksgiving. We meet people the very first week in December, when there's still a chance people are paying attention and not thinking about Christmas. And then they get to have it all the way through Christmas. And you guys, you don't know this, but you are spared a meeting that on the original schedule was having you guys meet on the 20th of December. And it all fell into place. And thank goodness you don't have to do that, or me either. So you get a little bit of Christmas, but the public has to be looking at it through Christmas holidays. And then our public meeting will come. So that's our second. Our public meeting is the 5th, and then we'll just finalize the thing. You know, we have to pull together more public comments and just sort of clean everything up. The product that you'll see on November 1st should not look much different when you see it on the 13th of January, just above what's shown as your last meeting. And that's just to get your okay, everything's fine. We may even be able to do that just like this is a total virtual meeting with not a whole lot of hassle, if everybody's happy. And, you know, we'll work very hard to get you a great product by November 1st. So then by the 31st of January, before everybody's attention is completely taken over by Patriots Day and all the 2025 hoorah, you'll have a plan in hand. And that was Ann's basically we needed to meet that test. We had to get a schedule that fits that. So that's what we've told MHC, and that's what we will do.
That's a lot.
Yeah,
It is a lot.
that's a lot.
It's I have a question about the public meetings. So because in order to generate interest and attendance and participation, do you have a kind of a idea for that?
Well, yeah, I mean, we need to put out press release and, you know, email blast or whatever you guys do for all of this, you know, we would encourage, we pretty much expect you guys to do that side of it. We're
So,
happy.
okay, because I just was wondering, you know, because the Goodwin Forum in the library has become kind of the go-to place for a lot of public events. And if we want it, I mean, I think we should book it.
Yep,
You can
Yep.
always cancel
right,
but
both
both
days.
those dates. So I would offer to do that, Alan, if it's okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, and we'll write a press release, work with Ann on it. And it's something else you guys can review. I'll just write that on here for me. We won't put it in the task list, but you know, anything that we can do, if you want me to, you know, Alan and you and Ann and I can go interview with the bridge. I don't know, and whatever you think will work to get people interested.
Second
Uh,
question, Alan
Melissa,
or
yeah.
Elizabeth, actually, I presume this is an evening meeting?
That's my expectation. It usually, I mean, like you guys are here at 7, I think, you know, whatever works. Some people like to do a little earlier in the evening so that, you know, it just depends on the town, what works for most meetings.
Maybe even 6:30, something like that.
The library will close at 8 many nights, so 6:30 to 8.
Yeah,
Mhm.
The other thing we can do is we can ask Minuteman Media, that's our, you know, in-house videography, to stream it live.
yeah,
Document it, but they can stream it live.
sure.
They can have a Zoom function and we could have somebody monitoring the Zoom if that would help.
It's hard to do hybrid meetings. Let's keep talking. I think for sure you should record it and post it.
Yeah, that's okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, I have done hybrid meetings and also with translation, and it got crazy without translation maybe. So if somebody else is in town has done a hybrid meeting, tell me how it's gone.
Okay.
Yeah. One thing I didn't say is that one of the lagging product in the sort of phase 1 stuff where you do all the backgrounding is the context statement for the town. What that is not a history of Concord, but an explanation of how the town's physical historic resources have evolved over time in response to technology, transportation, other kinds of trends. You already have one, but it's ancient. It was done back when the Massachusetts Historical Commission was doing them across the state. Every town has a reconnaissance report. Ann Forbes did a really nice job of updating that for West Concord, which I think spares us doing a long part. I think we can refer back to at least that product. I wouldn't refer people back to the reconnaissance study, but she borrowed from that and we will borrow from her for West Concord. But there's a little bit of something that she did for Concord itself. It's not as good as what she did for West Concord, I think. And so we just have to get that written. And one of the questions is should we post that along with the recommendations? It is supposed to be created in time. For both of those could be postable if you choose. And since everybody's really intensely interested in local history and how this plan is going to express the history of Concord, even with the focus on the evolution of the cultural landscape and not necessarily all the historical, names and places and events and things that you would get from the social circle and all the other kinds of things that you'll get in regular histories. It'll still be something I think important for people to see. And I think it would help perhaps to put it out early rather than have it be a product people don't see until the 22nd of November. So we're looking at having that ready to go out along with the recommendations. Questions, comments? Stunned silence.
Impressive.
So you've
It's
just, you,
It's a little
just a little overwhelming.
Yeah.
It's a ton of work.
Yeah, it is. It's a huge, and here's the thing, that big glob of work that's going to be done after the first public meeting on the 12th of September, all the way to the 1st of November. when we finish a chapter, it goes to you. It's not all coming to you in one big slug. So just be prepared to, open your email and just read, a chapter.
Oh my.
Okay. And you've already seen some things, and you'll be seeing other products. Some of the stuff that we'll be cleaning up and packaging into appendices, we may do that last. That might be, we will finish on the 1st, and you will have a meeting on the 15th. You are to have a full 2 weeks to consider the entire body of the work. Okay. But we will start rolling it out as soon as we can.
Lauren,
Some things
you
are
have-
sort of written already, so.
Yeah, I think Elizabeth answered my question. My question was going to be, kind of stepping back, what can we do, to support you in this effort? But it sounds to me like just keeping on top of all the products as they come in a timely manner is going to be critical. Is that what I'm hearing? And
Yes.
then I assume, Anne, you would be the conduit for comments. And then we would need a process, I guess, for consolidating comments and getting them back to Elizabeth.
Yes, I envision myself being that person, just
Yeah,
gathering up all the comments and exactly putting them together and getting them back to Elizabeth.
great.
Yeah, and I have no pride of authorship.
Mm.
I enjoy being edited. And I'm not kidding. I mean, and I feel like I'm having to play at the top of my game for you guys anyway, and I know you'll put me through my paces with editing.
I know, I've been very impressed what you've done, and then what Anne does, I feel
Yeah.
kind of useless. Very impressive.
You still have, I think that high level view of this works for Concord is the stuff that we need from you guys too, not just editing, but sort of stepping back and saying, just do it for us. Because you're who fine-tune the sort of tone, approach, specific ideas, sort of looking at it overall. That's important.
Right. I was hoping to just chime in here because I was wondering how do you want this to look? One of my professors, she used to say that there are really 3 kinds of readers. There are the people who really just look at the images and the captions. Then there are the people who read the text, and then there are the people who read the footnotes, right? So I want to make sure that and then there's some of us who do all of those things, right?
Right.
But for, to communicate, the contents of this plan to, the greater public or select board members, how do we sort of make it readable, really just, and make it, more specific to Concord, through say imagery or design or I was thinking quotes, quotes from, Emerson and Thoreau and and even the town of Concord. If you look back through its annual reports and comprehensive plans, the covers that they choose are very, very striking. And so, we want this to be really something that reflects Concord in the 21st century. So if you all can start, thinking about those sorts of things and sending them along, we'll try to get them right into that plan.
Yeah, and not to inspire imitation, but we did send you a big slug of plans, other people's plans that you can take a look at. And you can let us know if you see something that you think is particularly effective graphically. We'd love to know that. Yeah, but they'll be tuned to each community. Our plans, you'll see many of our plans. I think there's probably some level of similarity in the way we approach things, but you can kind of tell. I'm the writer of long captions and sidebars and stuff like that, which, by the way, are getting more problematic with digital accessibility, readability. The PDF readers that you now have and computers, and it's we no longer can use double columns. It's very difficult to do sidebars. Photos and captions can be made to work, but it's been interesting dealing with public access in this sort of new age of things. So bearing in mind, it may not be some of the more complicated layouts that you've been seeing in some of your conferencing plans and other products that towns have had. We should not do that anymore. Just sorry, but I've learned the hard way what works and what doesn't.
Nancy Nelson?
Given the complexity of this plan and all the different layers and people who have been involved, I'm thinking about the general public and wondering if you're gonna have an executive summary of some
Oh,
kind.
yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, good. And how long is that usually?
Well,
2 pages?
yes, we can do a 2-page one. 6 pages usually works better. You if you did an 8-page one with photos and everything, you can actually pull it out and publish it separately.
Well, photos are great. I think photos
Yeah.
really help people.
Right. I mean, the 2-page approach is the abstract approach. You know, when you see a professional paper, there's usually like a half-page or 2-page or up to 2-page abstract. Actually, 1 page, no more than 1 page. We prefer to get a little bit more out there, you know, like some of the big ideas, a list of some of the big actions and that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's hard because there's so much content here.
Yes, absolutely. But we can also key the executive summary to where to go find content, you know, so it almost becomes, you know, better than a table of contents.
Oh, key it to the table of contents. Okay.
Now that you're saying that, I like the idea of the 8-page possibility of publishing a separate shorter document that then you could distribute to different committees.
Make it available at the library.
I just like that. Yeah, I just like that. I didn't know that would be a possibility, but I like that idea.
There's a summary document like that that accompanied the Concord plan.
Yeah, Envision Concord.
Yeah.
And I suppose, and that's a budget. See if there's money in the budget for that.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I agree. I think that'd be a nice way to distribute it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lauren?
I agree. I think that would be a really great idea. And in fact, that doesn't mean 8 pages of text, right? Because you have a cover, you've got a back of the book.
Right. You might have a
You've got a back of the front cover, right?
Yeah, I mean,
You're down to 4 pages already. You add half photos, half images, and it's 2 pages. But you can make it in an 11 by 17, fold it over, makes for a nice little product.
Yeah.
I think that'd be lovely.
Yeah.
Bullets, a lot of bullets.
A lot of bullets.
Tables,
I
you
like
know, that
those.
sort of thing.
Yeah, definitely.
There you go.
Yeah, I used to make my historic preservation students write me a memo. One of the things that I did not know how to do when I finally, you know, got a great job, my bosses would want, you know, they would want explanations, and you never learn to do that, you know. And so, you know, people really appreciate it when they can read it fast. And, you know, the photos tell the story with, you know, if you drop to the captions, like Ann said.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Thank you. Wow. Wow.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Yeah.
Very much.
Always come away going, wow.
Well, I'm going to put on my nun garb and just work. But it's a great project. It's a great project. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll talk to you in a week or so.
Yes.
Right. Thank you. So moving on to the Wright Tavern preservation restriction. Do we know what's happening with the Wright Tavern lately, or?
It's done, right?
So, let me see if I can bring this up. Just 1 second. So following up on a conversation, it might have been a couple of months now. You remember that the Massachusetts Historical Commission had provided many comments on the preservation restriction. You had a meeting and provided really just 4 highlights that you wanted to address, or maybe there were several, which were, most of them were addressed, but then these 4 have bounced back. for further comments from you all.
That's right.
So let's see, regarding the survey, you know, you had wanted to, you know, have them actually survey the grounds because the grounds are currently a part of the larger, site for the First Parish. So their comeback on that was that they cannot afford to pay for a full survey.
That's right.
They could apply for a CPC grant, but that will take months before it comes in. And they asked if the town could pay for the survey. But we've had a little bit of discussion, Nancy and Alan and I, about the possibility of using an existing CPC grant, which did include funding for administrative costs, and, you know, architectural and engineering costs.
Mhm.
So,
Does that seem possible?
sorry,
Does that seem possible?
I think so. If I think you'd be the one who would scrutinize it most closely, and if you think that it's possible, I would agree to that too. And I would think that the whole CPC would as well.
Yeah.
They're
What's the
usually,
estimated cost?
Sorry?
What's
How
the
much?
estimated cost of a survey?
Yes, I don't know.
Couple thousand.
Yeah, I would say 1,500 or somewhere in that ballpark.
we're just talking about a conventional land survey, not a
Right.
detailed site plan. Is that correct? Just a
Correct.
land survey.
Just
Correct.
want
The
the
boundaries
The
and,
bounds, yes.
four
Yeah.
corners. Or
Right.
whatever, however many.
in my past life, we used CPC funds for administrative services, and that sometimes included architectural, you know, drawings to help in preparation for a project. So you should be able to use CPC for something,
Oh,
CPC admin funds for something like this.
I think so.
It'd be up to the CPC the committee.
I think that would probably be fine.
Great.
All right, and then, right, there was that piece about, the, the religious use of the property. There was a question about the word altar.
Yeah.
And so the solution that our town council came up with was to insert the word otherwise. And the Right Tavern said that that was fine, so that's good. So I think that one's solved. The town and the Historical Commission wanted to include all of the National Register documentation and the preservation restriction. They believe that would mean transcribing the text of the National Register.
Can I ask
Yeah,
Anne,
please.
what does that mean? Why can't they make a photocopy? Is that not allowed?
I think the MHC said that would not be allowed.
Okay.
So that's pretty clear. And I think the answer to this that we talked about was we just have to make sure that it doesn't get lost by Right Tavern again. There's a lot of information in that full.
So Nancy, or maybe you know, where is this documentation now in the archives of First Parish?
I have a full copy of it. I gave Tom Wilson a full copy of it. It's mostly history around the edges and the early compliance of the National Park Service with inspections and things like that. And the inspections by the National Park Service kind of fell away over time. For instance, that's one thing that's in there. But there are a lot of extraneous letters and whatnot. And can you think of anything else? I can understand why they don't want it in the PR, but I hope it doesn't get lost.
why can't Tom provide his copy and he make his own?
That's what they don't want in the PR. I think that's what MHC
They're
does.
pushing back. They don't want this as part of the restriction.
They don't
Here.
want all that background and whatnot in there. It's miscellaneous stuff.
Lauren?
Yeah, I think it's not appropriate in the restriction. The restriction is a legal document. It can have attachments, but you're really from what I understand, Nancy, you're talking about background information that relates to past history.
Well, that's what I found under the application. It was in the application in the National Archives or something.
Oh,
So it was all put together at one point as part of the application.
You
And
know,
there's a National Archives number there, so
yeah, okay.
if the Historical Commission has a copy, and when this is all signed and it's not there, the Historical Commission record could just plop it together.
And what about putting it in the library?
Yeah,
Archives.
it could go in the library for sure.
Yeah.
Or it would go with the town archives with Nate Smith because it's a town, this is a town record.
Yeah, somehow it could informally get put back together again.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of understand their point, but I really don't understand why it's such a big deal, but it is. So we'll just find another way to make sure it gets appropriately archived, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the last one then is, you all had said that you would like to include the high resolution, high contrast, black and white images as a part of the PR. That's what the requirement was by MHC. And then also retain the color photographs and the permanent files of the Historical Commission. So their pushback was that there were no funds available to pay for photos. They said that they're hoping the town would be willing to follow MHC recommendations about referencing the photos as that the Right Tavern has, as they did with the revised Exhibit C, making them available at the town offices for review. But this is actually incorrect because or they misunderstood because you all had not agreed to have them go the alternative route. You did want those photographs incorporated directly into the deed, or sorry, the preservation restriction. So, one thought was, CPC. I mean, if the issue is they don't have funds for photos, perhaps the CPC existing grant could help them with those photos. That was one thought.
Do you have any idea how many photos I don't remember how many photos we're talking about?
I don't know.
Are we talking about the historical architects' photographs of the entire interior and whatnot? There were like dozens.
Yeah.
And what's their objection? I don't.
It's expensive. They don't have the money.
I just don't think they want to pay for it. That's all.
Who's they? Right Tavern. It says that it's
Right
Right Tavern that doesn't want to. I thought at one point we told them that iPhone photographs were fine. Is that not correct? Am I remembering incorrectly?
But I think it's the Mass Historical Commission requirement that I think they're very specific on what the quality of the photographs.
Because they're probably looking at the National Register has very specific guidelines for black and white photography. It is kind of old school.
Yeah.
Lauren, has that changed at all with the advent of cell phones?
That's a great question, Alan. And the last last one that I put together was really, we did a lot of digital photography, but but not iPhone photographs.
But
I
we're
think
making movies with iPhones now.
it doesn't really matter what you use to take the photograph, right? Because my iPhone takes better, higher resolution
exactly.
photographs than my older digital camera.
Right, your old Nikon. Right.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
it doesn't really, what you use doesn't matter. What matters is that it's a really clear black and white image. And you can do that on an iPhone.
Yeah,
So it should be, someone needs to spend an hour walking around and taking photographs. That's what it sounds like to me. And then putting them on a page,
probably.
Beg for forgiveness.
inserting them on a page and attaching them to the restriction.
Well, I'm confused by this because Exhibit C was that very thorough documentation, right? There were dozens of photographs that were professionally taken. So where's the gap here? I'm not following. I'm not remembering this discussion very well.
Also, I have a question. A lot has changed within the building. So the photos that Lynn Spencer's people did were
Yeah.
before. And if you took photos now, it's after.
Yeah, that's true. It's a
Yeah,
lot of
that's a good
change
point.
happened.
Right.
Yeah, that was my question too.
And
Yeah.
it might be an issue of, which is sort of silly, but it might be an issue of color versus black and white. And that may be the issue, which is sort of a silly thing, but the NR requirements are for, I think, or they were for black and white photographs.
Make any digital photo black and white.
You can make a
Right.
digital photo in black and white, absolutely.
Yeah.
So why couldn't we ask Lynn's people, whoever did it, to just send us another set in black and white?
To convert the color to black and white.
You know,
Those, we're
there's just-
talking about the photos in Exhibit C, I think.
I
Yeah,
think so too, yeah.
And the
Yeah.
only problem with the photos in Exhibit C was that they were in color. Is that all?
sounds like it.
It might have been the resolution too, but there may be ways to,
Boy, the resolutions.
yeah.
Well, among other things, we cannot go back and take new black and white photos of something that has now been altered.
Right. There should, actually, there should be after photos too, but
Well,
that's a whole
yeah,
different
that's
thing. That's a whole different thing.
And,
So
and
this is
there also should be progressions photos of what's going on in there.
Yeah,
So that goes beyond what MHC is talking
Right.
about, I guess.
Yeah,
So
and-
why don't we just tell them that we're gonna ask the architect to convert the color photographs to black and white? Will that work?
So I now that I'm looking at this, I apologize. I may have spoken inaccurately. This says updated to meet the current registry of deed standards because the restriction will be filed right with the registry.
But
So I think you need to ask the question, if Lynn's team converted the existing photographs you have to black and white, would they meet the registry standards?
Yeah.
That's the
Right.
question.
I've
And
never
theoretically,
had to deal with that standard before, but I'm guessing that they would.
yeah, I would
But,
think so.
I mean, the registry of deeds, really?
I mean, it's probably 300 DPI and,
Hmm.
you know, that's pretty easy to meet.
Right.
Of course,
Is-
might not make cameras to take pictures to their standards. Never mind.
I don't know. It's a registry, yeah.
Their thinking might be obsolete.
So can we ask you, Anne, to inquire of Lynn?
Yes. Sure, yes. So that's good. I think that covers it.
Been a long haul.
Piece of cake, right?
So
Yep.
it'd be a fun question to ask MHC, would you please send us the registry of deed standards for photographs? It'd be
Well,
fun to
but-
see those. But
Well-
maybe don't ask the question. I don't know.
You might not want to hear the answer
Yeah.
because it might not exist. So, okay,
Anyway.
anything else on Wright Tavern?
I think
Moving
so.
on to parcel 1693 archaeological assessment. This gets back to the 250th. Which we've had many discussions on. And I think the last time we asked for some prints or paperwork, and I don't think any of that has been produced or nothing has
No.
come our way, right?
No, it has. And it was, Gary was at a meeting and he shared the information. I think it's still actually up on the website.
Okay,
At the May 9th meeting. He
So
shared some
you're
surveys.
talking about the meeting that you had with Polly and Tui?
Right. I was just addressing Alan's question, but
Yeah.
since then, I think Lauren and Nancy have been talking about standards for archaeology, and I think Lauren found the levels of archaeological investigation, which is up on the website. I had talked to PAL, Public Archaeology Lab, and they provided a proposal, which is on the website,
that's right.
for sort of the initial assessment, which I can bring this up.
Which is what I thought we basically asked of them.
Which is likely to progress.
Right, and I've also asked them to provide a cost estimate for the reconnaissance survey as well.
For the what?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
The reconnaissance
estimate.
The
survey.
reconnaissance
Oh, the
survey.
reconnaissance.
Whoops. Sorry.
Do you think they know what they're doing with, in terms of talking to Pal? Are they talking with Pal?
I have a question even before that. I understood that they have changed the mandate, if that's the right word, for the memorial committee. Does anybody know about that, or am I misunderstanding?
You mean the charge?
Yeah.
They have made some minor changes to it that don't affect this archaeological effort. I don't think they changed a couple of words. They seem to change it occasionally. So I'm not even sure. It should be on the Permanent Memorial Committee page. So we can look at that, and that, I take it, is their current final thing. But I don't think it impacts the archaeology. And they did seem to be, I did go to their meeting on June 6th, and it was a topic. It didn't stay focused on the archaeological effort for very long, but they seem to understand and accept it and think that it will provide them with important information going forward. So I didn't sense any resistance. They had a good meeting with Anne, Polly Reeve, and Tui Rogers. And everybody seems to be on the same team, although that may not mean we like the concept. But they did seem to be saying that that's pushing their timeline out, which frankly, in my humble opinion, is a good thing. Because they're gonna wait and see what they find, and they don't quite have a clear plan yet, so.
They don't, plus they have a lot of money to raise, and so they don't have a plan, they don't have funds.
Yeah, they don't have content. I've talked to a couple of people that they're trying to convene for content development, and at least one of those people has not been contacted yet, so I don't know how that's going.
So what are you asking of us, Anne? I mean, you've reached out to the PAL.
Right, it's really just an update, and we are
Yeah.
just waiting for a second estimate for the phase 1B, the reconnaissance survey.
So they're thinking that first step and then 1B.
First step is 1A.
Yeah, and they're thinking 1B. They, my notes say that they want to check, they want to check on what is the amount of money in 1B likely to be. I think they're looking at the ballpark estimate of what the next step would be.
Mm.
We don't know yet. And they're looking to Anne to help guide them through the procurement process.
Well, I think there's only 250 days left, right? Is that,
They want to execute this by July 1st with the work going on through the summer. So that's the sort of time frame. So they're not planning on groundbreaking or anything by 2025. But they are looking at a kind of a phase one. That would be the simple things like maybe the landscaping. They have that reforestation plan. They need to move the Thoreau marker and give it some kind of prominence. They also need to give some kind of gesture to Indigenous people who were here for 12,000 years, and filling the content of that wall 120 feet is, I hope they get that idea up, but they're not there yet.
Anyway,
But that gets off the archaeology track.
Did I
so-
understand you to say that they intend on getting the archaeology survey done
over
as
the
soon as
summer,
possible?
over the summer.
Okay.
I mean, looking at the
Does
estimate,
that conform with what you understand, Anne? Because you had a more technical conversation with them than I did. I just sat in at the meeting.
Right, I think they want to know the budget for all of phase one, 1A and 1B.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds right.
And Doug, you had something you wanted to say?
yeah, work-wise, I looked at the estimate and it's not a lot of work. I mean, it was like a couple hours, just kind of poking around, I think, the initial.
Especially since Anne's basically done it,
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
except for
yeah.
there's
We
one.
already know what's there or what was there.
What was there?
We don't need people poking holes in the ground to say, hey, there used to be something here. We know.
Well, except that we want to find out perhaps there's something really there. That's the point. It has been disturbed land. We know that. But we don't know how disturbed.
Well,
have-
I think one of the most interesting things is that the Middlesex Hotel is smack dab over where these columns are supposed to go.
Yeah.
And the Middlesex Hotel site was presumably there's a lot of junk in there from the fire and the demolition, and then a bunch of sand. And I don't know if it's going to be solid enough or not. But I suppose, this is why they're interested in the archaeology, because it'll tell them some things maybe they didn't know before about the conditions underground.
A problem is going to be that the earth there has already been disturbed because they put in that water holding tank, right in the middle of the parcel.
Well, in that place, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's their reason for why they said no, but we don't need to do this, but
Right.
we don't know what we don't know there.
And it's not in the whole site, although you would want to steer away from that. And there's a good drawing from the engineer from DPW about the size and scale of that, although they don't locate that plan with topographical, longitudinal measurements. It's all height. So it's a good thing to do.
Of course.
It's okay.
And as we said and presented at previous meetings, it's the area sort of in back that is less,
Right.
that may not be disturbed, that may hold information on the native people or, the
Possibly.
17th, 18th, or 19th century history of the site, including, we think the
Why
the
not?
fence for the jail yard
Yeah.
should be like right underneath where they're planning to build the wall. So it would be good to know where exactly that jail yard did end. And
I think-
that way they can place the throw marker in the correct spot. Right now it's not.
Yeah, right. Yeah, Could go in the exact wrong place.
I think can we request that when they finally do choose someone to do this work, that one of us has the option of being there,
Oh, yeah.
letting us know when it's happening.
It would be all public anyway, I think.
Yeah. The PAL worked on, remember, on the Old Manse? And
Yeah.
we were invited.
Yeah, no, I went and that was so interesting. I love doing that actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can make that request, definitely.
Yeah. Expectation.
Mhm.
Expectation.
Okay, more than a request.
We'll keep an eye on it. We'll keep an eye on it.
It's kind of hard to keep us out, although sometimes, sometimes our visits are restricted to the public way. I think it's HDC has that policy.
I just want to make sure that we have, can set aside the date where we know the date in advance.
Oh,
so
I'm
that
sure.
there.
I'm sure they.
Yeah, we'll know.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. We good with the 1693?
Yep.
Moving on to MCI Concord.
The easy one you said for last.
That's it. Well, it was, I sat in on a meeting, and everyone, I believe, what was that, a planning meeting this week, or and they were talking about MCI, and our liaison Nancy Nelson raised a really good point about what's going on over at the MCI, and raised a good point about historically significant
A survey. That's
right.
That's thanks to Lauren.
And
Actually,
with Lauren, right.
Yeah, I have to give Lauren credit for
Right,
that.
and I just wanted to open discussion about that, where maybe we could sit and maybe put a letter together requesting,
Yeah.
get the historical commission to make our 2 cents known with
I
that.
was surprised that they created that committee and they didn't include anybody, or did they even ask you, Alan, to suggest someone from our commission?
Negative.
Because I know that I spoke to several members of the select board and said, please remember that the historical value of that property is important, and people need to work with the historical commission to possibly preserve it. Certainly, I mean, the Cummings building is not part of this, so that's not an issue, the Cummings house. But the superintendent's property, definitely, and then there's an awful lot of archaeology there.
Right.
Um,
Thanks to Lauren and Nancy, it's, we need to jump on this and make our 2 cents known.
So Lauren, we'd be requesting, and Ann too, you guys know more than I do on this, historical resources inventory. Would that be the right thing?
Yeah, you might call it a cultural resources inventory.
Yeah, very good.
And you want to look at building structure, sites, and objects, right? The whole kit
And
and
objects,
caboodle.
right, the fountain per
the
se.
fountain, yeah.
So
even
it's
on the
probably
open
going to be
spaces.
a broad range of different kinds of resources there, but there's also the whole kind of context of the place.
Yeah.
And I think you'd want to evaluate National Register eligibility in a big, right? Don't you think?
Yeah. Maybe that's the second letter.
Well, I think
No,
maybe
I'm
you want to
kidding.
request MHC inventory forms.
Oh,
Maybe that's the way to do it.
oh my. Well, let's talk offline on that maybe.
Okay.
Yeah,
You know more than that than I do
Well,
about.
There are
And
just lots of ways you could slice and dice it, right? You could ask for I guess it depends on what we want to accomplish.
it's interesting. One of the discussions in town with elected representatives have been this balance between being really assertive on the part of the town and having to contend with the other interests outside the town that are coming through. So
Right.
it's you know, the people who come through there every day are gonna have different interests in the town.
Yeah.
And they're gonna have a voice and they're gonna have elected representatives, so.
Right.
Right, especially the developer that wants to contribute to the flyover. Right. In exchange for a piece of the action.
It's a state route, so there would be some compliance required, right? So
Yep.
there'll be a role for the commission down the road
Yeah,
as a project review.
yes,
But I think what you want to suggest is an understanding of the current cultural resources and their potential significance to aid in project
Project.
planning,
yeah, exactly.
or right, make
You
it
want
very
me to-
positive.
I volunteer to work with Lauren to draft a letter for you, Alan, if that makes sense, or.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'd like to volunteer too on that, you know.
Yeah, okay, good,
Yeah,
Great.
that makes sense.
Yes.
And of course has a little bit knowledge in this area, to say
Yeah.
the least.
Yeah.
Thank goodness.
well, I kind of equate it to, I mean, look what's gonna happen to the Mass Pike as they drive through Cambridge, you know, when they start burying the Mass Pike, when they're gonna do that whole project.
Mm.
What are they gonna do?
You know, when they're gonna squash the Mass Pike that's going through Cambridge and over the next 5 years.
Oh
You
my,
mean a mini big dig?
oh my goodness. Oh, I
Right.
didn't know. Oh, wow.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Could be a new mess
Right.
Wait a minute. So that's Mass
for years.
Department of Transportation, that will occupy them, so they'll leave Battle Road alone?
Right.
Hardly.
There's hope.
Okay, so that's great. So we can talk about the South Line. Other businesses, any with demolition delay, did you want to talk about, Ann, or you want to hold off on that, or?
Right, so so I had circulated a little bit of information about two of the two applications that came in recently. Sorry, it's been a long day. There's the one 185 Heath's Bridge Road, which is part of Canantum, so that one was really very clear that it's certainly historically significant. And then the other was 76 Martin Road, which as I said in the email, you know, it's right at the edge of a National Register district, and it's close to the local historic district. You know, it's not right on Monument Street, it's set back because it's, you know, sort of at the end of Martin Road. But just the proximity, you know, to these, you know, local and national districts was something that was flagged in the local bylaw. And so it is a virtually intact neighborhood. There are 3, you know, buildings that, you know, were built after the year 2000, but that was before the demolition review bylaw had changed. And so at that point, you were not reviewing structures that are that recent, that were, you know, this building was built in 1950, and the entire neighborhood dates to about 1948 to 1955. So that's one issue. And then also when Nancy and I did a site visit, the owners happened to be there, and he encouraged us to walk around, and we talked, and there's a bomb shelter in the backyard. So I don't know how many bomb shelters there are in Concord, but, you know, again, you know, the early 50s and a bomb shelter, it's like, it's such a cool aspect to this.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
We had one in our house on Lowell Road, and there were actually
Really?
TV rations. Yeah.
You
They
did
made it-
not,
They
really?
made it out of cinder block, like it was going to protect anybody. Yeah, it was
Wow.
in our basement.
Oh, that's so,
Do you know of any others? That's 2. Now we have a list of 2.
I don't know.
I bet there's more. in
Sorry, we
town.
mishandled it.
I'm sure
We
there's
didn't
more.
didn't come before the HDC, which would have been, it was interior.
You know,
Oh,
when I
that's
was doing
not
Riverwalk,
interesting.
I found a bomb from Korea.
Oh,
Oh,
I got on the front page of the journal back in the day.
wasn't that kind of a misdirected shell? I mean, it kind of missed its target.
Yeah,
West Concord, not Incheon or
right.
I think there was a lot of ordinance like that, Melissa, outside, at the back of your place and your next door neighbor's place, there was a lot of ammunition. People just dumped stuff in the river.
Oh, yeah, they did. Yeah, they don't. Yeah.
Anyway, this is a fairly large bomb shelter.
Wow.
It seemed like it went, it had at least, I thought there were at least 2 vents, but anyway, you could hardly see the entrance. And it
So
was,
what-
But the point is that this is going to be presented at next month's, that will be presented because it will be a
Right.
hearing.
Right.
Right. So we didn't feel comfortable sort of making the decision not to have it be reviewed. We thought, that it would be nice to have the neighbors,
Mhm.
give the neighbors a chance to weigh in by having a public hearing, and of course, the full commission as well. So just erred on the side of caution.
Yep, just calling your attention to it. So.
Yeah.
so if I could just.
Ironically, one of my friends grew up in that house.
Oh,
Oh, wow.
that was
Julie
Murphy-
Byer.
Murphy family?
Yeah, Julie Byer, or Julie Murphy is her maiden name.
Oh,
but,
yeah. Yeah, it was really nice to meet them, actually. Yeah, and he's a realtor now, Mr. Murphy, I guess. So,
Oh, okay.
can I
That's
very
the
quickly
brother,
tell
yeah.
you that when we were looking at the Marsh Billings Rockefeller site for inclusion in the National Park Service, we went with Lawrence Rockefeller through his home and property. And there was a bomb shelter underneath the big house, right next to a very extensive wine cellar outside the bomb shelter. But you go in the bomb shelter, there are beds for 12 people with all kinds, little slippers, books, coloring books, everything. And then if you continued on towards the back, and Lauren knows this, so maybe I get my geography inside wrong, but there was another door, very solid door. You opened that door and you went actually down a tunnel that was a metal tunnel. And at the end of that tunnel, there were 2 beds. Is that your recollection as well, Lauren?
I spent a lot
was
of
a little
time at Marsh
chilling.
Billings, but I don't remember the bomb shelter.
There's 2. There was one under the house and one under the bowling alley.
Where is this
Oh.
house?
It's in Woodstock,
Woodstock.
Vermont.
Oh, yeah.
It's
But the chilling thing was to go from 12 beds down a big metal tube to 2 beds. And that
golly,
was-
who got the 2 beds?
Yeah, that's right.
Mr. and Mrs. Rockefeller.
Right.
Yeah, that was a funny time in our history, that's for sure.
Oh.
Anyway,
So we'll expect to see them next month. And
but it's a good question, how many might be in town? I mean, it's
Yeah.
kind of a fun
We could,
thing.
that would be a fun little article in the Bridge.
It would be
I have to say, I was so entertained by, I don't know if you all noticed the article about the benches that are around that were given by the Garden Club in 1975.
Yeah.
And I had talked about this because I had found almost all of them but couldn't find, a few. And I can't believe that the one that was just found is practically across the street from my house. It was level with the ground. I walked past there 100 times, 1,000 times, and I just, even now, they have it propped up like this because the legs are gone. So they dug it up and it's propped up with a little stone. But I don't even remember it being a flat slab. I don't know if grass is growing on it or not. I just am so entertained by that. So this would be a really fun thing to put in the Bridge.
Yeah, it
Who
would be.
has a bomb shelter?
Yeah. Okay, sorry, sorry for
but-
the interruption.
That's okay. What our letter to MIPA regarding the Hanscom Airfield expansion.
It's awesome.
It was excellent, really excellent.
Awesome.
Thanks to
you.
Lauren. Thank you so much, Lauren.
Yeah,
Thank you
no,
very
Lauren,
much.
that, and a lot of
Very,
accolades to
very
Lauren.
good.
Yeah,
Oh,
that was, I mean,
Anne
everyone,
laid it out. Anne did the heavy lifting. I just got to come in and say, well, if we did this, we could do that.
no, it was
No,
incredible.
it's very
Whatever
impressive.
the process, it's a work of
Yeah.
art.
It's a great teamwork.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so accolades and,
Yeah.
thank
Yeah.
you.
Very much so.
Yeah. And the last thing is accepting the minutes from February, September, January, and February of 24. Is that right? 111, is that a typo? 14 or?
Oh, 24.
Oh,
Should it be-
24.
Yeah.
24, sorry.
Yeah, we should change that. So all in favor of accepting the minutes?
Aye.
I'm gonna
Aye.
I'm gonna abstain since I wasn't at any of the
Okay.
meetings.
Yeah, myself as well.
Okay. Nancy, you take a vote. Nancy, Priscilla Lee,
I,
Michael? Aye. Melissa?
Aye.
And I say aye.
Mhm.
Okay.
Oh,
Did someone make a motion? We
Oh,
might have to, did some, did
Ellen,
I-
Ellen
Alan
did.
did.
yeah, I thought
Ellen
I
did.
did, but
Okay.
yeah, so. Well,
Can I vote since two people abstained?
Huh? Well,
I'm not a full member, full voting.
wait,
member.
1, 2, 3, 4. How many people do we need now? We have so many people.
We have so many people.
5.
5 people.
And you-
I guess actually a quorum is 3, so
Oh.
you would technically need 3.
Yeah, so
Yes, a
1, 2,
permanent, a
3,
full
4.
members, full
A
members.
full-
But,
Okay,
but,
okay, good, okay.
But Nancy, you still would be allowed to vote.
I can't vote as an associate or whatever kind of member I am. I'm not a full member.
but the
I thought-
chair can, right, the chair can designate you a
Right.
full member for the purpose of voting
To
for-
make a quorum, right?
Yes.
Make a quorum,
But we already have one.
but you already have.
Okay, and that's everything, I think. So, wow.
I'd
What a
just like
great
to
meeting.
welcome,
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very
You
much.
should
So
still
we
listen.
need a motion to,
I just
adjourn
want to
tonight's
welcome
meeting?
Beth because I just want to welcome Beth because I think this is her first meeting, attending her first meeting. So if you're still listening, Beth, welcome.
I am.
Hi, Ben.
My hair
welcome.
looks fake on video. I don't like looking at myself, so.
None of us does.
This
You know,
is
you know
terrific.
what?
That's
Looks
terrific.
nice.
But thank you.
We're
Yeah.
glad to have you.
Welcome.
I think you can declare in your power as chair that we're adjourned. Unless Ann vehemently disagrees.
I think, I agree with that.
All my
Okay.
other community.
Well, I
chair-
adjourn tonight's meeting and we'll see you next month.